Yo, yo, yo. How are you all? I know this was a surprise. Surprise. You didn't expect to see me in the middle of the day, but I'm here. That's right. I'm here because this is a special day. This is what I've been waiting for since I cast my ballot for Donald Trump. This is it right here. The confirmation of Kash Patel to be our new FBI director. It's like, how do I not live stream this? I've got to live stream this. I got to share this moment with you. We got this woman up here.
This isn't someone who has any business running the world's premier law enforcement agency.
I don't know why she sounds
This
like
isn't
a
someone
trans woman.
who we can trust to be faithful to our Constitution. This isn't fidelity to the rule of law and impartial law enforcement. It is a direct threat to it. Bravery, fidelity, bravery, integrity. So let's talk about bravery.
He should be loyal to the president.
We all know that the Capitol Police showed bravery far and above the call of duty on January 6, 2021. We know that. We know that many of them, their gear was stuck on a bus, their riot gear. They weren't even able to access it. And so many of them were protecting us, people who worked in this Capitol, when the people that were storming into this Capitol had better gear than the police had. And of course,
why would that be? Why would they have better gear than the police?
The Capitol Police with the new chief.
That's an indictment on the police.
Sergeant in arms, changes to our security profile. We've made those changes. Of course, we should have done that. But what we do know is they showed bravery. But rather than recognize the officers' bravery, Mr. Patel accused those who testified in the January 6th
because those cops are corrupt. Yeah, they were liars.
When asked on a podcast whether Capitol Police officers told
why they have to get a pardon
in the House of Representatives January 6th committee hearings when they were under oath, Mr. Patel said, and I quote, "No, and lying under oath is a federal offense and they should be investigated for it."
100%. Go get him, Cash!
Once again, our colleagues on the Judiciary Committee gave him the chance to walk back these comments during his hearings.
No.
And once again, he chose not to.
He shouldn't.
In fact, he claimed this wasn't accurate. It was exactly what he said. We have the evidence. We have the facts. We have the proof. Right there, his words.
Yeah, his words are great.
Think facts and truth and the proof should matter to someone who is asking to be head of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, but it doesn't. Literally, this is on YouTube.
That's why we're bringing him in.
Anyone listening today could look it up.
That's why we're bringing him in.
The men and women of the Capitol Police aren't criminals. They're heroes.
Some of them are.
And so are the men and women at the FBI who every day put their lives on the line to keep us safe. But Kash Patel disagrees. He wrote in his book, again recently, that, quote, "The FBI has become so thoroughly compromised that it will remain a threat to the people unless drastic measures are taken."
Yes, drastic measures.
Men and women of the FBI, quote, "utterly corrupt."
Yes, they are.
How do you think that makes people feel?
I think it makes them feel like, wow, someone sees how crappy our elites are.
Robbers or gangs or drug rings.
Yeah, how do you think that makes
Because Kash Patel didn't like one investigation.
Law enforcement supports Kash Patel a lot more than support you.
And beat up police. And then he said he wanted the list of everyone that was involved in that. I don't think the FBI is a threat to the people like Mr. Patel.
No,
I don't think it's utterly
that's because
corrupt.
you haven't felt their wrath yet.
Republican colleagues believe that either. I think they admire the people that work at the FBI. In fact, under Mr. Wray's leadership, as I noted.
If you're wondering, the vote is scheduled to occur at 1:45 p.m. 1:45 p.m. is when they're supposed to have the vote. They invoke cloture, which means that there's a limited time for debate because it's a director of an agency. Cloture, instead of being 30 hours, is 2. So they invoke cloture at 11:45 or thereabouts, and they're supposed to have a vote at 1:45. This is all times are Eastern. When I talk times, I'm talking Eastern time. So I know I sometimes have to remember that some of you all are not in Eastern time. So it is less than an hour away from when we're having that vote.
Brave. and tell the president on this one, no, this is not the right person. We know he's your friend. We know you've hung out with him a lot, but this is not the person for this job. I asked my colleagues to vote no on just
God bless you.
I voted yes on something.
Liz, coming on in here.
I
like that sound a lot more than Amy Klobuchar's voice.
Been the first
God bless you. Glorious day of victory. God,
I voted
so
yes
good.
on some of them. I asked them to vote no on Kash Patel. Integrity, FBI, integrity, I. The FBI runs on facts. It runs on truth. Without truth, the whole system breaks down. And in his hearing, Mr. Patel,
how much truth was Comey bringing when he ensnared Michael Flynn?
Of the FBI, who clearly does not have the integrity the job demands. Mr. Patel did not even have the integrity to stand by his own words that we had on YouTube. Instead of disavowing or providing explanations for his past statements, he says he's right. Misled the committee, dodged questions, and claimed ignorance.
Right now it's 12:53 p.m. Eastern time.
Why would you want someone in the FBI
less than an hour.
Remember things they said only a few months before? This is irresponsible at best and deceitful at worst. The director of our nation's most powerful law enforcement agency must be forthright and trustworthy. He must follow the facts and carefully analyze evidence before drawing conclusions. Powerful law enforcement agency Mr. Patel has proven that his allegiance is to the president, not to the truth. Mr. President, independence of the FBI from the White House is critical. We recently saw courageous prosecutors stand up for an independent justice system. They resigned instead of carrying out politicized orders from the administration. These were not liberal lawyers. These were not members of the resistance.
I told you, she sounds like
U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Danielle Sassoon.
I don't think she has a limited time.
Society member and a clerk to
they
Justice
go and then they
Scalia.
pass the baton to someone else when they get tired.
She is a rising star. She is so respected. She has taken on major cases and won against criminals time and time again. And she gave up the position of the acting head of one of the most incredible prosecutor's office in the country, the Southern District of New York. And the lead prosecutor of the case, Hagan Scotton, was a decorated Iraq war veteran.
I zoned out for a minute.
He clerked for Justice Roberts and Justice Kavanaugh when Justice Kavanaugh was on the Court of Appeals.
So what?
In his resignation letter, he wrote, I expect you will eventually find someone who is enough of a fool or enough of a coward to file your motion, but it was never going to be me. I think we should think about those words when we take our votes. I expect you will eventually find someone who is enough of a fool or enough of a coward to file your motion, but it was never going to be me.
Well, adios, jackass.
My Republican colleagues need to show some of the same courage as these public servants. They need to stop acquiescing and stand up to this assault on our justice system. And a good place to start is by voting against Patel. The fact is, federal law enforcement and the American people deserve a director who embodies the Bureau's model.
God, her voice
fidelity,
is so grating.
Bravery, and integrity. I will be voting no on his confirmation.
Oh, will you?
And I asked our Republican colleagues to join me.
She's winding up now.
In standing up for the rule.
Whenever they say I'll be voting no, that means they're down. They're done.
I yield the floor.
Mr. President.
The senator from Hawaii is recognized.
Senator Hirono.
As the leading law enforcement agency in our country.
As the biggest idiot to ever set foot in the Senate.
Every single day to keep our nation, to keep us safe. From counterterrorism and counter trafficking to fighting cyber attacks and so much more. At a time of global instability, FBI agents are working day in and day out to protect us from threats, both foreign and domestic. But today, the FBI and the Department of Justice face a crisis caused not by any outside threat.
Oh, they're so mad. They're so mad.
And women tasked with
Oh, they
leading
feel
key
so
agencies.
frustrated. We
Instead of
have no
focusing
power.
on potential
Oh, we have no
attacks,
power.
hacks, or violent criminal enterprises, we have a DOJ and FBI that have been turned inward on themselves. In just the last month, dozens of senior career
I'm going to go make
FBI
myself a
and DOJ
coffee.
employees
I will be
have
back
been
in like 3 minutes.
purged
As
en
fast as I can
masse
make it. And I'm going
by
to come
President
scurrying
Trump
back here
and
because
his
Senator
administration.
Hirono
Hundreds of thousands
is.
of the prosecutors
Should
and
I wait for the
FBI
next one?
special agents
Who
and
might be more?
analysts may be next.
No,
In
she's
fact,
boring
I
me.
shouldn't use the
All right,
word may. Will be next.
Hopefully.
Purging hardworking and
Hopefully.
dedicated civil servants does nothing to make us safe. In fact, it does just the opposite.
Should I mute
Attorney
her?
General
I'm gonna put a
Bondi
quick vote. Should I
recently
mute? Should I press mute while I'm making
the
a coffee?
creation
That's
of
a good
quote,
vote.
Weaponization working group, end quote.
I'll listen to whatever the
Bondi
vote says.
continues
Start a
this
poll.
trend. Through this working group, she is doing what she told us she would not do in her confirmation hearings.
Coffee.
She is, quote, investigating the investigators with this working group. And I expect next to be prosecuting the prosecutors.
What say you? What say you, Rumble? Should I mute?
Inward on themselves mean.
Pinochet's helicopter says to all the government bureaucrats who have been laid off, I hope your families suffer.
To Kash Patel, President Trump's nominee to lead the FBI.
I'm getting a lot of mutes there.
For many reasons, Mr. Patel is not the man to answer the many challenges of the moment. Mr. Patel spent his nomination hearings avoiding every hard question, not even the hard questions. I asked him, for example, if he would investigate people on his 60 people on his deep state list. He would not
Maybe.
say no.
Why would he say yeah? Why would he say no?
Clear.
Maybe he will.
List, and I suspect it's a growing one. But
it's 54-46. Yes, I should mute.
Sufficiently loyal to President Trump.
Nobody likes this lady, Phyllis.
Many Republicans on the list. And what the heck is he planning to do with that list? Believe me, it's not because they're going to be commended for the work that they did. I asked him in his hearings whether he profited from selling supplements to detox the COVID-19 vaccine.
I'm getting some now.
He promoted on his social media.
All right, you guys can mute her individually. That's a fair point.
He did not.
And the vote is close enough. The vote is really close enough.
I asked him if Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. He would not answer. He claimed not to know an anti-Semitic extremist named Stu Peters, despite the fact that he appeared in this person's program 8 times. He tried to claim no involvement with the January 6th choir made up of inmates serving
I'll turn her
in prison
down a little bit
for their part in the violent insurrection.
That's my compromise.
January 6th
I'll be right back.
At the Capitol. And of course, we all know all of these inmates have been pardoned en masse by the president. He claimed no involvement with this choir, despite promoting them and hawking their merchandise for years. He was unwilling to provide any details about his grand jury testimony related to the January 6th insurrection. Testimony he had to be compelled to give after taking the Fifth Amendment. And of course, Mr. Patel has the same rights as any American to plead the Fifth. But we have an equal right to ask him, as the nominee for the FBI director, no less, why he did so, and to learn what his ultimate testimony was. The one thing Mr. Patel did testify to in response to a question from Senator Booker about whether he was, quote, aware of any plans or discussions to punish FBI agents or personnel associated with Trump investigations, quote. And his response was that he was, quote, not aware of that. We have since learned of credible evidence that Mr. Patel perjured himself with that statement. Mr. President, Mr. Patel is totally unfit to lead the FBI. It's clear he won't discern fact from fiction, and that he will be loyal to Donald Trump and Donald Trump only, which means total disregard for the Constitution and the rule of law. Ours is a nation of laws. But Mr. Patel's nomination is one more indication that Donald Trump fancies himself above the law, even referring to himself as king in a recent tweet, and will weaponize the law however he wants to advance his political agenda. Mr. Patel is a dangerous nomination that will make our country less safe, less secure, and erode America's trust in the FBI. Mr. President, our administrative agencies, and certainly the Department of Justice and the FBI, do not exist to be used as tools for retribution by Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, or Kash Patel. But that is exactly what is happening with our agencies and the firing and the purging of thousands of people who are doing the job of the people. What can be thinking in supporting Mr. Patel to lead an agency that has the tools to spy and go after all the people that he doesn't like? I urge my colleagues to vote no on his nomination, and I yield back.
Mr. President,
Senator from California is recognized.
today the Senate is on track to confirm Kash Patel as director of the FBI. Think about that statement for a moment. Kash Patel, conspiracy theorist, January 6 denier, MAGA sycophant, and political provocateur, will be FBI director. The absurdity of it, the destructive consequences of it. And it's worth asking today, how did we get here to such an extreme point? To this moment when someone so patently unqualified, really disqualified from any position of responsibility, is poised to become director of the nation's preeminent law enforcement agency. Earlier today, I stood with my colleagues out in front of the FBI headquarters, a building that Kash Patel promised to dismantle on his first day as FBI director and turn into a museum of the deep state, the home of a department that we all know he will convert into a political weapon for the president who is a serial lawbreaker and will use Patel as a tool for retribution against his enemies. But in a democracy, law enforcement does not serve the president, let alone someone who fashions himself as a king. Law enforcement serves the people. It is nonpartisan. It is not a vehicle of political payback for a political party. And yet we are watching the FBI and DOJ hollowed out, dismantled, and turned into an investigative and prosecutorial extension of Donald Trump's White House. We are watching it live in real time. It is already happening in that building we visited this morning. In just the last month, Donald Trump's Department of Justice has engaged in a brazen, sweeping purge, a rolling Saturday night massacre, an unmistakable campaign to intimidate, to punish, and to drive out thousands of hardworking, nonpartisan FBI and career DOJ employees. This
Schiff.
is happening as we speak.
Schiff.
Acting Deputy Attorney
Schiff
General
for brains.
Bove fired roughly 24 prosecutors involved in January 6 criminal cases, not for cause, not for corruption, not for misconduct. They were fired for failing what is in effect a loyalty test.
And that should be fired.
Loyalty test.
They should be fired for that.
A MAGA mob attacks the Capitol on January 6th to stop the peaceful transfer of power. They beat police officers.
No, it wasn't.
Gouge them.
It was because of lack of integrity.
All in the service of an even bigger crime.
A lack of transparency of integrity.
Peaceful transfer of power. After Donald Trump lost his re-election.
No one believes you. You've lied too many times.
The lawbreakers get pardoned. And the brave FBI agents who track down these violent miscreants, these agents get punished.
Only the liars.
They get purged.
Only the liars.
One-man wrecking ball that is Donald Trump is turning the world upside down. The criminals are being pardoned and the cops are being punished.
The lying cops.
Now, Kash Patel sat before the Senate Judiciary Committee and under oath insisted he knew of no plans to punish FBI employees.
Yes, Mountain Dew and coffee.
Investigations related to Donald Trump.
What?
He positively levitated at the suggestion that such a thing could even be true. Then within days, top FBI agents were fired. Thousands of FBI employees, career professionals, were sent a detailed questionnaire demanding they disclose any involvement in investigations related to the January 6th insurrection. A warning accompanied this. Additional personnel actions could follow. And yet, Mr. Patel testified that, quote, there will be no politicization at the FBI. There'll be no retributive actions taken by any FBI.
I never heard anything about that.
FBI director. He sat in that committee room and told the Senate all FBI employees will be protected against
Pinochet says, I can't wait for the Patel Revenge and Retribution Tour. Bureaucrats should be thankful we're letting them keep their...
The very next day, the purges began.
Well, not the ones who committed treason.
Dried on the transcript of that
hopefully they get convicted and hanged.
In his written response to questions, Patel denies knowing about these actions in advance. Denies knowing whether
should we change to a news conference?
Dismissals with the White House, the DOJ, or the FBI. He wrote, I do not recall having conversations with the transition team about
I'm so happy to be rid of that
investigations or targets.
What an utter embarrassment he is.
And his answer was,
I never heard about him in a 10-year-old, no.
But in fact, whistleblowers have come forward to testify or to state that not only did Patel know.
Principal Potato, the National Popular Vote Compact was enacted into law by 17 states and the D.C. Last election, those 17 states did not abide by this law by not voting with popular vote. Do you think this will affect future elections? So the National Popular Compact, those of you who are not familiar with this concept, while this guy's rambling on for a minute, I can explain to you what Principal Potato is. The National Popular Vote Compact is a movement that has been started by numerous states. Numerous states have said that they will abide by the popular. They're trying to abolish the Electoral College. So what are they saying? They're saying, how do we pick our electors? Well, the way we've been doing it is through democratic process. Each state votes, and whoever gets the most votes in that state, that's where the governor will sign off and the secretary of state will sign off on them getting their electors. So Republican wins it, the Republican slate of electors get the chance to cast their votes. Democrat, and it's the Democrat slate of electors. So, and that's how every state in the union does it. The National Popular Vote Compact says we as a state agree that if it only kicks into effect that once they have an electoral college vote of 270 states that sign 270 electoral votes, states that together combined carry 270 electoral votes, at that point the terms of the compact would kick in, which fortunately they don't have, and we should pray they never ever have, because oh my God, abolishing the Electoral College would be an utter disaster. But it would be the most un-American thing imaginable. But the idea behind the National Popular Vote Compact is that, so if I'm from state X and my state votes against against what the popular, whoever wins the majority of votes throughout the country. So let's say my state voted red and the majority of votes across the country were blue. Even though my state voted red, I am going to give the slate of electors to whoever won the popular vote and disregard the local vote here in my state. So understand that. What they're saying is this kicks in that our state's votes are not going to be determined by the local population. They're going to be determined by the national vote. So the reason they didn't abide by that law is because under the terms of that law, it only becomes effective upon there being enough states that collectively they have 270 electoral votes. They were shrewd in that way, as far as saying we're only going to jumpstart this once we actually know that we have enough states on board. So there's no duty by anyone who signed the compact to abide by its terms and give their votes to the winner of the popular vote, which obviously we all know this past vote was Trump. The objective is clearly to abolish the Electoral College and say, all right, whoever wins the popular vote is going to end up carrying the 270 by having those states all sign on and give their electors over to whoever wins the popular vote. And it's their way of circumventing the Constitution to try and find a way to embrace the popular vote. I will say this: any governor or legislative body in any state, any individual elected to office in their state who endorses this, signs off on this, or does anything to commit their state electoral votes to the popular vote is a douchebag who should be tarred and feathered by his own constituents. Because what that individual basically is saying is, where am I going to be bound? I'm only going to be bound if my state happens to vote, if the popular vote is blue and my state votes blue, then the compact's not having an impact on me. The only time it's having an impact on me is when my state votes red and the popular vote is blue, or my state votes blue and the popular vote is red. That is when my vote will, that's when things will change here. That's when this will have an impact. So what are you basically saying? You're saying that whatever the will of my constituents is, if it compared to the national votes, they got it wrong, so to speak, I am going to disregard my own constituents who elected me and put me into this position of power, this prestigious position of power. I am going to ignore my constituents' will and make it subservient to the national popular vote, irrespective of whether elections that are being held in state A, B, C, D may be cockeyed, cockamamie, stupid, ridiculous, retarded type of ways of holding elections. Even if in some foreign state 2,000 miles away, there's people are stuffing in, because they know it's a national compact vote, they're stuffing in hundreds of thousands of ballots to try and tilt the national vote. And they know that they have a free ballot box right here that they can just shove votes in there, shove votes in there, shove votes in there, and basically treat ballots like they're monopoly money. My state is now bound to whatever the total popular vote is showing. What a complete abdication of your duty to serve your own constituents. They put you in power, and you come in there and have the audacity to say, hey, I don't care what you want. I just care what the national popular vote is, even if it's a completely effed up count, because someplace 2,000 miles away where no one's actually really looking very hard, or the governor himself, hint, hint, Gavin Newsom, is kind of implying shove in as many illegal aliens, as many ballots as you can shove in there, and we're going to be tossing around ballots all over the place, mailing them all over the place, completely distorting what the national popular vote is. But we're just going to be subservient to whatever those numbers end up showing at the end of the day. And F you, my own constituents. This person, any person who signs off on this, whether they're a Republican or a Democrat, if you vote for someone like that, you are a doofus. You are a moron. You're an idiot. You are the stupidest. You are too stupid. They should strip you of your vote. We should strip you of your right to free speech because you're that dangerous to yourself, out of self-preservation, out of helping you not completely just self-immolate. The same way you would take a gun away. You would take a gun away from someone who's suicidal. So too, we should take a vote away from anyone stupid enough to vote for some congressman, governor, or anything who's signing off on a national popular vote compact. Because the only time it's kicking in is when your vote is outvoted by the rest of the country. You're a jackass. You're a moron. You're too stupid to be breathing. You cannot possibly be a genuinely overall beneficial member of society. Anyone like this, you're a terrible drain on humanity. You should question everything you've ever done in your life because you're clearly a very disturbed or dangerously stupid individual. I mean, who the hell gets elected by these people and says, I'm going to F you people? That's what it is. I'm totally going to screw you over. Now that you put me in power, let me just completely up the wazoo to you. And you're like, oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Lube me harder. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. You have to be a complete and total moron to think that this is something that's beneficial to you. Idiots. That thing ever gets 270 electoral votes, I'll tell you right now, there's going to be so much ballot stuffing in places we never even thought of. All of a sudden, Oregon is going to have 50 million votes in it. It's going to be insanity. It's going to be insanity. Ridiculous. Ridiculous, stupid thing. Can't stand those folks. This is the most aggravating notion I've ever seen. So we should pray for American society that they never get those 270 electoral votes, and we should shun anyone who has been stupid enough to sign on to it so far. Literally shun them, embarrass them, shame them, humiliate them. What's White House babbling about now?
To a law enforcement job with an enemies list.
Yeah, an enemies list.
Then they had to pretend that this was not.
Who's on the enemies
list?
Enemies list. Andrew McCabe, he belongs on that enemies list.
Here's what Kash Patel himself says about it. Names named, roadmap unveiled. The manhunt starts tomorrow.
Nice.
If you're going to set up a manhunt against people, are they not your enemies by any logical definition of the term?
Well, I don't know. You went after Trump with that theory.
A video that shows himself chainsawing off the heads of the people
he
on
didn't
his
do
enemies
that.
list,
Oh, he retruthed
including the handsome junior senator from California.
Nice.
And the daughter of former Vice President Cheney.
I have a whole box of them. I just didn't have enough of them. I got like I literally
off of people with
I buy them by the box.
And he didn't put it up, but he retweeted it. He loved it so much that he put it up.
He is
on
a
his
criminal.
own media.
He is a criminal.
Things like that are not appropriate for an FBI director. They're bizarre for just a normally weird person.
It's not for a senator's
but for
term.
an abnormally weird person to be the director of the FBI, things
Dang
are
it, Judge, trying to watch Branka talk about a judge who was threatening Trump
warm.
with contempt, and then your pointy head popped.
A completely sycophantic suck-up when it comes to Donald Trump. He wrote children's books in which King Donald rules.
Yes.
This loyal little functionary.
Yes, a lot healthier than those trans children's books.
Justice to him, pursuing the slugs of the FBI. Really?
Should be in every library, every
FBI
kid's school
to
library.
Investigate corruption in Trump world. Do you think Kash Patel will rise to the occasion, or do you think he'll participate in a cover-up? All you have to do is look at his own conduct and his own history. This is not Democrats saying this.
Oh.
What we're doing is relating what he has said and what he has done. This is Kash Patel on Kash Patel.
Yes.
He spread the really abhorrent lie
Oh, which
that
part?
federal
I'm sure it
law
wasn't Laura.
enforcement was behind January 6th.
No, they were.
On one of the many podcasts and interview shows where he spewed so much disinformation and partisan vitriol, he was asked, looks like you have a preponderance of evidence suggesting there may have been federal law enforcement involved in making January 6th happen. Patel's response, I'll get you to beyond a reasonable doubt.
Damn Skippy.
Beyond a reasonable doubt, he believed and
Yes.
said federal law enforcement agencies were behind January 6th.
If he can't, then he won't win.
We know that is preposterous. We
Why?
know that is
How do you
false.
know that?
We know that investigations have shown that none of that is even
That's not
remotely
true. That we definitely don't know.
Completely false information.
You're completely
And yet,
false information. You're
here he is spouting
speculating.
it, and that's what he's going to look like as FBI director too. The FBI is going to have to appear before judges and convince judges of the probity of the agency, of the legitimacy of the agency, of the propriety of the investigation, that the department has done a fair job of marshaling the evidence. Here's what he says about judges.
Yeah.
We got to start impeaching judges.
We do, like Judge
If
Chutkin.
they've ruled against Donald Trump.
Yeah, like Judge Merchan.
They were a
He can't be
political
impeached.
terrorist, in his view. Any case that Donald Trump's been charged in, almost every judge is handling this thing as if they were not a judge, but a political terrorist.
Yep.
And of course, he
Except
meant
for
the
one.
Trump judge down
Except
in
for Judge
Florida
Cannon. She was
as
great.
the only one accepted. When you start talking about
You're
judges that
speculating.
way,
Maybe it's not Judge
you
Cannon.
can't
Maybe it's
then
a different
expect
judge.
judges
I had the
not
same
to
speculation.
pay attention when you come before them trying to do the work of the FBI. Then there's the question of what his former colleagues have said about him. These are things that he said himself. What have his former colleagues said about him? Every single one, a Trump appointee. John Bolton, National Security Advisor.
John Bolton.
I didn't think he was qualified. I was
This guy
forced
wants to bomb every
to hire
country
him.
into
The local pressure
Kingdom
jammed him into
Come.
the job, and Bolton said, I don't want any part of this guy. I was forced to hire him. The Attorney General Bill Barr,
Another
they
neocon.
tried to force him on Bill Barr as deputy director of the FBI. And he said, Patel has virtually no experience that would qualify him to lead the FBI, and said, over my dead body, does he get that job? These are the job
Yeah, well, now he's not going to be deputy
recommendations of his
director.
own colleagues that show his unfitness. Over at the CIA, they tried to stuff him in someplace.
Gina Haspel.
And the director of the CIA, Gina Haspel, I'm no friend of Gina Haspel, but here's what she said about
I'm
him.
no friend of Gina Haspel
If he
either.
came over, she would resign before allowing Patel to assume a position as her deputy.
He should have
This
done
is a
that.
guy who has a record of engagement with Trump appointees that show that he is not qualified, not capable, and somebody that they would resign before they'd let work for them. And now we're supposed to let him work for the American people. It is ridiculous.
That'd be funny.
He testified once in state court on a Trump-related case, and his testimony was, to put it mildly, not convincing.
That's not
Here's
at
what the
all what
judge
she
said.
really thought.
The court finds that Mr. Patel was not a credible witness.
Yeah, if you actually
His
watch
testimony
testimony, she was
was
not in
not
agreement with
only
everything she was saying, and then
illogical,
she wrote
but
this crap to
completely
justify
devoid of
her
any
stupid,
evidence in the
ridiculous
record.
decision.
Okay, people come into court, they lie, the court doesn't believe their nonsense, and statements like this happen all the time in court. But here's where they don't happen. They don't happen with federal law enforcement agents. Because
Really?
when
She
I
didn't
was the
believe
US attorney
Representative
in
Buck
Rhode Island,
either.
if one of my FBI agents had gone over into the United States District Court in Rhode Island
Idiot.
and testified in a criminal case in
Yes.
such a way that
Gotta
one of the
give us
United
more
States
names.
district judges
More
said
names.
about that witness, he was not a credible
You know, she
witness.
says
His testimony
sedition,
was
not treason.
illogical,
Treason
devoid
requires
of
at least two
evidence in the
witnesses
record.
the same of her act to testify in open
We'd be
court
looking into
to
that.
treason and requires working with the
This
declared
comes
enemy.
darn close to being
Sedition
what is
easier to
called
prove with the same
giglio
penalty.
material.
Fair enough.
Material
Well
that the
said.
government
Good
is
catch
forced
on
to
me.
disclose to future defendants when it bears on the credibility of a government witness, an agent who is a government witness. People lose their careers over giglio material. This, if he was
Compacts
an FBI
between
agent,
states
would
have to
have
have
caused
prior
a
approval by
response
the
in
U.S.
headquarters
Congress.
to say, what
Article
the hell
1,
is going
Section
on?
10,
How did one of
Clause
our people
3.
get involved in such
Really?
flagrantly fake
I don't
testimony
remember that.
that
Let
he
me
was
check
called
that
out
out.
by the
Article
judge in the
1,
case like this? And this is the
Section
person
10.
that they want to put in charge of the organization, whose probity and whose professionalism and whose integrity are essential to the successful working of the organization. And the guy was basically called out as a liar and a fraud in plain court. This guy is a hot
Wow, good job,
and when you have a character like this that lies in court, that runs chainsaw memes about your opponents, that every person who he tried to work with who was senior in the Trump administration said, get this bum out of here. I don't want to be anywhere near him. That's a record.
That's reassuring. One more hurdle.
All, my Republican friends who are going to vote on this guy, when he gets there and he does what his character tells us he will do, don't think this isn't going to come back to haunt you.
This guy's the most deep state guy out there, Sheldon Whitehouse.
Don't think that his Trump servience as FBI director won't turn on you.
I can only hope it turns on Schiff.
He's a vitriolic partisan who despises Democrats doesn't mean that when Trump's ire moves someplace else to Republican office holders, he won't be there to deliver the FBI as an enforcer against you. So there's a lot to be concerned about. I'll close with this. Never before in the history of American law enforcement has somebody sought to attain a high position in American law enforcement who has pled the Fifth Amendment. Not only did he plead the Fifth Amendment, but he refused to tell the committee what it was all about. You can't plead the Fifth unless you have a reasonable expectation that could put you in jeopardy of a crime. What crime? How in jeopardy? Explain that. You're not just a normal person. You're trying to be the head of the FBI.
He knows how corruptive they were.
Pleading the Fifth entitles the judge to instruct the jury to draw an adverse interest about your testimony.
So
that the jury can find against you because you took the Fifth. Why?
Imagine running around with your hair on fire, clutching your pearl so hard for so long. I realized that you told. You aren't getting your way now? Continue with the whining tactic, and I'll see you all at the midterms. Yeah.
It is an unprecedented, terrible situation.
I would say this. If I was Sheldon Whitehouse or the Democrats, I do think he did come with an intelligent line of attack where he would say, I would start naming off Republican senators who are most likely to be on Cash's hit list. And I would be like, Senator Murkowski, as soon as you vote against some bill that Trump wants passed, you're going to be on his hit lists. Senator Susan Collins, you voted on this thing that Trump would certainly not have liked. As soon as you vote on something he doesn't like again, you're going to be investigated. That is a great way to try and attack the most vulnerable senators if you're Democrats. That's what they should be doing. That's a very shrewd line of basically making them feel threatened by the idea of voting for him. That's what I would do. But they got 15 minutes left. I doubt they're gonna come up with that in the next 15 minutes.
An investigation and a prosecution can do to an individual's life, even without a conviction. I used to tell my staff the most important thing we decide to do is to start an investigation or bring charges.
But she is someone who's going to be voting to confirm him. They're expecting.
Will be under a magnifying glass, having to.
He does look like an undertaker.
Defend himself, even if no charges are brought, and to defend himself, even if there's no conviction, and the charges themselves.
I'm just going to urge you all to please, while you're here, okay? My channel is slowly melting away. I was at 102,000. If you could please hit like and subscribe, I would be much obliged to you. It doesn't cost you anything. There's no charge, no nothing. It's just a button you push. You've probably pushed it before. Just push it again. If you think you're subscribed, just double check and make sure that you are.
So the position of director of the FBI,
maybe hit the bell,
or Attorney General of the United States, or prosecutors and investigators who work
pop
for
up in the middle of the day unexpectedly,
are not ordinary positions. Even potentially in certain situations, they are more powerful than a member of the United States cabinet in the impact they can have on individual lives. For the ordinary nominee, any of the defects in character or experience or performance in past jobs would have been disqualifying. We live in a time that is not ordinary. And this nominee is not normal.
Oh, he's very not.
I've
I
never
agree. He's
seen
not
any nominee
typical.
to a position
Thank
of
God.
significant responsibility that has as many disqualifying factors
Huge panic mode.
in his or her background. But I think that one comment about him that strikes me whenever I read it is the full quote from former National Security Advisor John Bolton.
Oh God, they keep coming back to Bolt.
Part of that quote has been cited
Thank you,
by
Catherine.
previous speakers. I want to read the whole quote. Kash Patel's conduct in Mr. Trump's first term and thereafter indicates that as FBI director, he would operate according to
I'm doing this for
Secret
fun.
Police Chief Lavrenti Beria's reported comment to Joseph Stalin, "Show me the man and I'll show you the crime."
That's what they did to Trump.
Now, very few people remember Secret Police Chief Beria and the terror he caused
He was terrible, Beria,
in
and
carrying
KGB.
out Joseph Stalin's edicts.
Oh, now
to
that's the new
destroy
one. He's
people's
not.
lives,
He's
to
not Adolf
execute
anymore.
them,
Now he's Joseph.
eliminate their families.
Literally, what they did
But
to Trump.
the
They went after his
mantra
family also.
of Beria and Stalin, show me the man and I'll show you the crime. Make up the crime to fit the man and we will eliminate him. We're talking here about a nominee who has an enemies list. He calls it something different. He calls it government gangsters.
Yeah,
And he's on a manhunt for them. Manhunt is his word.
it should be.
He can use different words, but the point here is he is on a mission
Yes.
to use the powers
Yes.
of this office in Donald Trump's name for political retribution against his enemies,
Not retribution.
against Trump's enemies,
House cleaning.
against MAGA's opponents. To use these institutions for political retribution is the height of irresponsibility. Even to hint at it ought to be disqualifying, and he has made it explicit in his past writings and his statements and speeches, not just a couple of times. It is a theme that runs through
10 minutes left.
his public comments, that eliminating enemies through the use of prosecution is
They're all crying.
not only acceptable, but it's desirable.
Oh my God.
The FBI is a very special agency, 38,000 civil servants, including 13,000 special agents
They are two completely different things.
who
It's two completely different
go
things.
after
Retribution
international and domestic
is
terrorism,
punishing someone
cyber
because you want to
criminal
get back at
syndicates,
them.
foreign espionage,
It's not
organized
retribution when you throw a criminal in
enterprises,
jail.
including drug cartels, child
It's house cleaning
sexual
people who don't
exploitation
normally
and
get charged,
human trafficking, and many other crimes that affect
but have committed crimes.
our lives.
It's taking away the protections that
the lives
these
of
folks
everyday
who are living a different
Americans
life than
across the
you or
country.
I are normally
All different
afforded.
backgrounds, races,
That's what it is.
religions can be victims of crime that the FBI investigates.
They can say whatever they
And
want on the floor.
The FBI
There's no such thing as libel.
agents
There's an
put their
automatic
lives on the
defense
line
when you're on the
because
floor.
pursuing these crimes often puts them at risk
Yep.
from bad guys who may not even know that they're shooting at an FBI agent, but it's somebody pursuing them. They may not know that an FBI agent is operating undercover, and they may be killing him. And so
they're literally wasting their time. Yep. They should be screaming, Senator Murkowski, he's coming for you. You are next. You're on that list. Senator Collins, he's coming for you. This is what they should be doing. This is what they should be doing. And then you come up with one more name, because ideally what they're looking for is, they know they have Mitch McConnell because he's scum. And Murkowski and Collins are the two most likely to side with the liberals. Come up with those two, but they need to get them down to 49. Otherwise, the tie-breaking vote is going to be J.D. Vance. So they need to come up with 3 names and just keep repeating those names over and over again. That you guys are going to be federally indicted. That's what they should be doing. That's what I would be doing. That would be my game plan. But they're too stupid.
Targets to be investigated. Letitia James, Alvin Bragg.
It's a lie.
Jack Smith. All of
but
them
it's a lie that
legitimate
might scare them off the vote
against President Trump. There have been reports that prosecutors and FBI agents have been reassigned from drug trafficking to do immigration enforcement, from terrorism task forces to immigration enforcement. And the administration has issued allegedly unethical or illegal orders, causing many top prosecutors to bravely resign rather than betray their oaths of office. We're talking about men and women who love their jobs.
Who they're calling heroes. They don't love their jobs. They're going to get higher paying jobs in private sector.
And do them well.
And they don't want to work for Trump.
And they have sacrificed.
They haven't sacrificed jack crap.
Because they were.
That's like saying I'm sacrificing by giving up this podcast to become a Supreme Court justice.
Unethical.
I love my job, and I do love my job. But I'll sacrifice to become a Supreme Court
now
justice.
More than ever an FBI director who
sacrifice it all. I'll give it all up.
Devoted to the ideals and values of the Department of Justice and the Constitution above all. Anyone taking one of those jobs raises their right hand and swears an oath to the Constitution, not to the president, not to the Attorney General, not to any other official. It is to the Constitution. Kash Patel is not that person, not the person to have that immense responsibility, most especially at this moment. He lacks the judgment, he lacks the integrity, he lacks the character and competence to be FBI director. Kash Patel's contempt for those agents who put their lives on the line has been clear. He's called them
liars.
The FBI, one of the most cunning and powerful arms of the deep state.
Yep. And he's going to
there are now
hack at it.
Highly credible whistleblower reports.
Highly credible.
That he may have directed the purging of senior leaders
highly
of the
credible.
FBI, as well as
we won't tell you their names, but they're highly credible.
Firing of career FBI officials. Those
trust me,
FBI officials
highly credible
who serve professionally with distinction, put their lives on the line, purged as a result of Kash Patel involving himself, in fact, in those decisions, even as under oath, in response to my questions, he said, quote, all FBI employees will be protected against political retribution. All FBI employees will be protected against political retribution. Well, we stood in front of the FBI headquarters this morning.
Did you?
In that very building.
Did you?
There are individuals who will be fired because they took assignments. They didn't choose, they were assigned to criminal investigation that happened to involve Donald Trump. Political retribution at its very height. And if he directed the purging of those FBI agents, contrary to the assurances he made to our committee at his nomination.
Where does that stand? Well, we're going to continue to have.
We're switching over to the press conference for now.
We're going to continue to have discussions
They
about
just
where that deal is going. Again, we have an obligation to the taxpayer. I think this is an opportunity. The president thinks this is an opportunity.
everyone wants the
Ukraine
press
going forward.
conference.
There can be,
We'll go to the press conference.
in my view,
I
nothing
just want to
better,
shrink this thing.
for Ukraine's future and for their security than to have the United States invested.
So I can
in
keep an
their
eye on it when
prosperity
they start
long
voting.
term. And then a key piece of this has also been security guarantees. Look, the reality that we're talking about here is it in Ukraine's interest? Is it in Europe's interest? It certainly isn't in Russia's interest or in the American people's interest for this war to grind on forever and ever and ever. So a key part of his conversation was helping President Zelensky understand this war needs to come to an end. This kind of open-ended mantra that we've had under the Biden administration, that's over. And I think
I have here those of you who are confused.
And then the other
Up
piece
here,
is there's
I
been
have
discussions from
the
Prime Minister
Senate, which I
Starmer,
muted, and this is a press
and also,
conference.
President Macron about European-led security guarantees. We welcome that. We've been asking Europe to step up and secure its own prosperity, safety, and security. So we certainly welcome that.
Hey,
and we
Kurt.
certainly welcome more European assistance. As I told my counterparts, come to the table with more if you want a bigger seat at the table. And we've been asking for that for quite some time.
And has Russia pushed for sanctions in your talks with them? And have you consulted with international partners and allies about potentially rolling back sanctions in these negotiations to end the war?
The talks with our Russian counterparts, both with my counterpart, the National Security Advisor, Secretary Rubio's counterpart, the Foreign Minister Lavrov, it really was quite broad, focused on what is the goals for our broader relationship, but very clear that the fighting has to stop to get to any of those brighter goals. And as a first step, we're just going to do some common sense things like restore the ability of both of our embassies to function. And again, this is common sense in foreign policy world. They call it shuttle diplomacy. We have to talk to both sides in order to get to both sides to the table. And both sides have said only President Trump could do that.
Deanna.
Thank you. And my question is for Mike Waltz.
All right.
That's a good question, Jen. I probably
The
should
president
change
has called Zelensky a dictator. Does he view Putin as a dictator?
I need something to update.
And does he want Zelensky out of power? I know he's called for elections. And then thirdly, the head of the Defense Committee in Ukraine's parliament just has claimed that the U.S. has stopped selling weapons to Ukraine. Is that true?
Well, most of our weapons that have gone to Ukraine have been part of a drawdown authority where we've literally taken them out of our stocks and then eventually through appropriations started buying them again to refill our stocks. I'll just state that there has been a lag in a lot of that process. So many of our stocks, as we look at our operations around the world, are becoming more depleted. That's one of the reasons many people have had a lot of concern about when does this end? How much is it going to take? How many lives will be lost? How much will we spend? As a member of Congress, we repeatedly asked the Biden administration those questions, and we never got a satisfactory answer. Look, President Trump is obviously very frustrated right now with President Zelensky. The fact that he hasn't come to the table, that he hasn't been willing to take this opportunity that we have offered.
Ukraine has banned Truth Social.
Get to that
Zelensky
point,
banned Truth Social in Ukraine today.
But President Trump is, as we made clear to our Russian counterparts, and I want to make clear today, he's focused on stopping the fighting and moving forward. And we could argue all day long about what's happened in the past.
Reagan.
Yeah,
Thanks.
what about
I have a question.
Oh, the
for
IRA.
Stephen. Excuse me, I just called on Reagan. Reagan, go ahead.
I have a question for Stephen and a question for Mike.
Sure.
Stephen, I can start with you. There have been reports that Trump is unhappy with the rate of deportations and he wants them to be higher.
I'm
Is
not
the president
surprised.
happy with the rate of deportations, and are there any plans to speed up the process?
Well, first of all, we all appreciate the encouragement from the media to deport as many illegal aliens as humanly possible. So thank you. And I will promise you that the full might of the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Justice, the Department of Defense, and every element and instrument of national power will be used to remove, with speed, all criminal illegals from the soil of the United States of America, to enforce final removal orders, and to ensure that this country is for American citizens and those who legally belong in this country. We inherited an ICE that was completely shuttered. We inherited a Department of Homeland Security whose sole mission was to resettle illegal aliens within the United States of America. In 30 days, the president sealed the border shut, declared the cartels to be terrorist organizations, has increased ICE deportations to levels not seen in decades, and we are shortly on the verge of achieving a pace and speed of deportations this country has never before seen. Thank you.
And Mike, there have been reports that there's some underground opposition to Trump's pick for Undersecretary of Defense and Policy, Elbridge.
Look at the little Hasidic guy
Have
here.
you or anyone from the administration been personally lobbying senators to support?
Who's that?
Look, I've worked with Bridge Colby in the past. He has the president's full support to be the Undersecretary of Policy, which will be a critical policy arm for Secretary Hegseth going forward that will implement a lot of these policies. And really, that's been to the extent of it. I think there's been a lot of kind of, breathless, I don't know, back and forth in the press. But we're full speed ahead to get the president's team in place so we can implement his America First policy.
Thank you.
Mike has spoken pretty extensively. Does anybody have questions for Stephen or for Mr. Hassett? Nobody wants to talk about the economy? Sure. IRS? Okay, go ahead.
This would be for either one of you. So we reported, several other outlets have reported that about 3,500 people are due to be lose their jobs at the IRS by the end of the week. If the goal of these spending cuts across the federal government has been to reduce the debt, why impose some of the deepest cuts we've seen so far at the agency responsible for raising revenue for the federal government?
Well, I think our objective is to make sure that the employees that we pay are being productive and effective. And there are many, more than 100,000 people working to collect taxes, and not all of them are fully occupied. And the Treasury Secretary is studying the matter and feels like 3,500 is a small number, and probably can get bigger, especially as we improve the IT at the IRS. And so I think that it's absolutely something that is on the table for good reasons. And the point is that
I'm a big fan of the people he brought in.
Don't just talk about the IRS, talk about all of government.
So far,
that there are so many places.
Some of them may turn out to be flops, but
maybe live in DC where you never.
He's done much better picking people this time than round one. It seems
because nobody's doing their job. We look back and we see that there are all these people doing two jobs while they're getting a government payroll on the payroll. So the point is, we're fixing that, and the IRS is a small part of that picture.
So you're saying that everybody who's being let go was doing a bad job?
Yeah,
I'm saying that we're.
I wasn't a fan of Rubio for Secretary of State.
Who to let go?
I think he's way too much
from
neocon, but so far he's been okay. He's the one who scares me the most.
From analysis.
Because we're being told by a lot of people who have been let go at other agencies that they were told they were being dismissed because of poor performance, when in some cases they haven't even had a performance review yet because they've only been on the job a couple of months.
Yeah, I've never seen.
Yeah, I think Rubio was to throw a bone to the Democrats.
Say that they were performing poorly. Okay.
Carolyn? Good point. Sure, Caitlin.
I have a question. I'll start with you, Kevin Hassett. Thank you for being here. And then I've got a question for Mr. Waltz. On these potential checks that you might send out from Doge, is there a concern as you're thinking through this that they could be inflationary?
Oh, absolutely not. Because imagine if we don't spend,
they're not printing the money,
give it back to people. Then if they spend it all, then you're even. But they're probably going to save a lot of it, in which case you're reducing inflation. Okay, and also, when the government spends a lot, that's what creates inflation. We learned that from Joe Biden. And so if we reduce government spending, then that's reduces inflation. And if you give people money, then they're going to save a bunch of it. And when they save it, then that also reduces demand and reduces inflation.
Okay, so you're not worried about it. And
no,
Mr. Waltz, to follow up on Peter's question, you wrote in an op-ed in the fall of 2023.
I'm not sure I agree with that, because it's not like we're working with a surplus.
Do you still feel that way now, or do you share the president's assessment as he says Ukraine is to blame for the start of this war?
Well, it shouldn't surprise you that I share the president's assessment on all kinds of issues. What I wrote as a member of Congress was as a former member of Congress. Look, what I share the president's assessment on is that the war has to end. And what comes with that? What comes with that should be at some point elections. What comes with that should be peace. What comes with that is prosperity that we've just offered in this natural resources and economic partnership arrangement, an end to the killing. And European security and security for the world. The president's not only determined to do that in Europe, he's determined to do it in the Middle East. And just a few months ago, we had an administration that had tried for 15 months, week after week, sitting with you here and couldn't get us to a ceasefire, couldn't get our hostages out. Now we're at that point. We're back to maximum pressure on Iran, and we have just begun, and we will drive towards a ceasefire and all of those other steps. I'm not going to pre-negotiate or get ahead of the sequencing of all of that. It's a very delicate situation, but this is a president of peace, and who here would argue against peace?
Okay, so you do share that assessment. And can I follow up? In 2017,
go ahead,
then
Jordan.
President Trump.
Go
Can I
ahead,
just follow
Jordan.
up really
You
quick?
just had 2 questions,
Can
Caitlin.
I
Jordan,
just-
go ahead.
I have an important follow-up.
Jordan, go ahead.
No one cares.
So,
Go ahead.
Mr. Hassett,
Who cares, Caitlin?
you were speaking about tariff revenue, and you also addressed a question about the IRS. President Trump has spoken about replacing income tax with tariff revenue, especially with all this waste, fraud, and abuse that we're seeing cut. Is that a possibility?
Absolutely. And in fact, if you think about the China tariff revenue that we're estimating is coming in from the 10%.
Those of you who joined late,
plus
this is
the
what's going on in the
minimus,
Senate right now.
that
We're
it's
still
between
having
500 billion and $1 trillion
the boring
over 10
speeches.
years
That's why I
is
have
our
this up here in the
estimate.
corner, so we can
And
see
that's
when
something
they go
that
for a vote.
is outside of the reductions.
This is a
that
press
markets are
conference
seeing
right now
through
about
the
developments in
negotiations
Ukraine.
up on the Hill. And so we expect that the tariff revenue is actually going to make it much easier for Republicans to pass a bill. And that was the president's plan all along.
And I have a question for Stephen Miller about Doge. So you spoke about Doge. You said roughly $50 billion is set to be cut in a year of waste, fraud, and abuse by unelected bureaucrats. We're hearing this ironic narrative from the president's critics and the left-wing media that Elon Musk is an unelected bureaucrat and he's doing all this terrible stuff. Isn't one of Doge's objectives to get rid of the federal bureaucracy, the deep state, and also who was running the White House when Joe Biden was in office? Because I don't know a single person who believes it was Joe Biden.
Yes, you're tempting me to say some very harsh things about some of our media friends. Yes, it is true that many of the people in this room for 4 years failed to cover the fact that Joe Biden was mentally incompetent and was not running the country. It is also true that many people in this room who have used this talking point that Elon is not elected fail to understand how government works.
Very few people are elected.
For a brief civics lesson. A president is elected by the whole American people.
Yes.
He's the only official in the entire government that is elected by the entire nation.
I missed it. I apologize, Arian.
Judges are appointed. Members of Congress are elected at the district or state level. Just one man. And the Constitution, Article 2, has a clause known as the vesting clause. And it says the executive power shall be vested in a president, singular. The whole will of democracy is imbued into the elected president. That president then appoints staff to then impose that democratic will onto the government. The threat to democracy, indeed the existential threat to democracy, is the unelected bureaucracy of lifetime tenured civil servants who believe they answer to no one, who believe they can do whatever they want without consequence, who believe they can set their own agenda no matter what Americans vote for. So Americans vote for radical FBI reform,
good guess.
and FBI agents say they don't want to change. Or Americans vote for radical reform on our energy policies, but EPA bureaucrats say they don't want to change. Or Americans vote to end DEI, racist DEI policies, and lawyers in the Department of Justice say they don't want to change. What President Trump is doing is he is removing federal bureaucrats who are defying democracy by failing to implement his lawful orders.
Yes,
which are the will of the whole American people.
Thank you. The will of the people is manifested through the voice of the president.
We've had an hour of time. I know a couple of these individuals have a meeting to get to at 2 p.m. So you're welcome to follow up with my team for further questions.
Vote time.
We're going to let these guys get back to running the United States government. And we will see you all later. President Trump will be speaking at 3 o'clock at the Black History Month reception. So thank you. It's good to see you. We'll see you in a bit. Thanks.
Are you going to the Black History Month reception?
We got a vote going on here. We got a vote.
Mr. Blumenthal, Ms. Blunt Rochester, Mr. Booker,
Very full house there. You can see everyone's very excited. Come on. What's he thinking
Mr.
about?
Bozeman, Mrs. Brett, Mr. Budd, Ms. Cantwell, Mrs. Capito,
I can't hear their vote. Is no one voting?
Mr. Casti, Ms. Collins, Mr. Coons, Mr. Cornyn,
Is anyone there?
Ms. Cortez Masto, Mr. Cotton, Mr. Kramer, Mr. Crapo,
What's Crapo?
Mr. Cruz, Mr. Curtis,
They're doing a roll call.
Mr. Daines, Ms. Duckworth, Mr. Durbin, Ms. Ernst,
Joni Ernst.
Mr. Fetterman,
Fetterman, vote yes.
Mrs. Fisher, Mr.
Roll call.
Gallego,
But you don't
Mrs.
hear anyone
Gillibrand,
saying aye. Here.
Mr.
Present.
Graham, Mr. Grassley, Mr. Hawley, Mr. Heinrich, Mr. Hickenlooper,
That's okay.
Ms. Hirono,
Get your butts in there. Let's go.
Mr. Hoven, Mr. Husted, Mrs. Hyde Smith, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Justice, Mr. Kane,
Tim Kaine. Mr. Langford.
Mr. Kelly,
Oh, damn it.
Mr. Kennedy,
Oh, man, I forgot a lot of people.
Mr. Kim,
Oh, that's my
Mr.
senator.
King, Ms. Klobuchar, Mr. Langford, Mr. Lee,
Beast Senator Mike Lee.
Mr. Lujan, Ms. Lummis, Mr. Markey,
Mr. McConnell.
Mr. Marshall, Mr. McConnell,
Boo.
Mr.
Boo.
McCormick, Mr. Merkley, Mrs. Moody,
I don't trust any of these left people who are leaning right now. That's what neocons and that's what
Moran.
your swamp is going to do
Mr.
because
Moreno.
he has the
Aye.
power. So we shouldn't trust any of these
Mr.
people.
Mullen, Ms. Murkowski, Mr. Murphy,
I know. This
Mrs.
is why I
Murray.
said this is the biggest confirmation in American history.
Mr. Ossoff, Mr. Padilla, Mr. Paul,
The significance here comes from this. There's no, you have to look at replacement value. Meaning, if it's not him, it's going to be some other Republican. How close will they be to being as good as Kash? And what we can say that with any position. Did I want Hegseth to get confirmed? Obviously, yes. I think he's a good choice, and I think that he'll be based, and I think he'll be potentially great. But there's really a lot of great people who could fill being Secretary of Defense. The same with virtually any name you throw out there. When it's someone who has a unique approach, a unique background coming in there, and has a stated objective and agenda when they're coming in there, that is a completely different thing, because no one else is coming in with that package of potential benefit of having both knowledge, because he does have the experience and background to have seen the deep state up close. He knows these people. He knows who needs going after. I might have the same passion as Kash Patel. I don't have 1/100th the knowledge, 1/1000th the knowledge he has of the actual individuals who have dirt. And there's probably very few people who have that knowledge, and none who have displayed a similar knowledge and capacity. Aside from then you throw on top of that his ability to handle himself, which I shared with my audience here numerous times, his ability to handle himself on cross-examination and basically turn it on the cross-examining attorney's head, embarrassing the hell out of him. I mean, this is a guy who's based, he's knowledgeable about these particular elements, and he also is very, very capable individual, an incredibly calm and capable individual. That is a package that is irreplaceable. And has an objective of doing something that nobody has ever done with the FBI or with any intelligence agency ever headed by in any branch, any segment of our government. That's what we're looking at right now with Kash Patel. That's why the stakes are so high. It's similar with Kennedy and his fresh approach towards HHS and looking to make America healthy again. Similar, that he too is arguably irreplaceable or very, very difficult to replace. I don't think there's anyone who has the potential to be as effective at implementing vital, necessary changes that Kash Patel has. No, I don't think there's a human alive. And that's why this is such a massive day. That's why this is such a potentially great day. This is just irreplaceable.
Hyde Smith, Kennedy, Moreno, Paul, Schmidt, Scott of Florida, Tillis, and Young. Senators voting in the negative: Duckworth, Durbin, King, Lujan, Murkowski, Murphy, Padilla,
negative.
Peters, Sanders, Warner, and Welch. Ms. Slotkin, no.
Surprise. Ms. Slotkin. 100 broke. Murkowski voted no. So he's looking at most here, he's getting 50. He needs them all. Right? Because Collins said she's a no. McConnell's a no. It's 53. And Murkowski is a no. Bitch. I hope he puts her on the list. Now that we're about to not be...
Mr. Sheehy, aye. Mr. Schatz, no. Mrs. Moody, aye. Mr. Crapo, aye.
There you go, Crapo. Crapo's from Idaho.
Mr. Scott of South Carolina, aye. Ms. Rosen, no.
We're pulling them up here. Democrat.
Mr. Tuberville, aye.
All right.
Mr. Husted, aye. Mr. Johnson, aye.
Ron Johnson. Coming through.
Mr. Risch, aye.
There you go. There you go.
Mr. Kelly, no.
Yeah, we know that. There's the vote tally down here, 27-15.
Mr. Ricketts, aye.
All right.
Mr. Blumenthal, no. Mr. Daines, aye.
All right.
Mr. Justice, aye.
All right. We gotta get to
Ms.
50.
Cantwell, no. Mr. Graham, aye. Ms. Collins,
no. Bitch.
Mr. Marshall, aye. Ms. Lummis, aye. Mr. McCormick, aye.
That's where we won. That was the close vote in Pennsylvania. McCormick barely getting that seat out there. Cash is crazy in a good way. He won't back down.
Mr. Schumer, no. Mrs. Gillibrand,
That's true.
no. Mr. Sullivan,
We're watching it here, Kathy.
aye. Mr. McConnell,
No.
aye. Mr. Wyden.
What?
Mr.
McConnell's
Wyden,
aye?
no.
McConnell said yes. Did I mishear that? Son of a bitch.
Ms. Alsobrooks, no.
Oh, that's over.
Mr. Kramer, aye. Ms. Blunt Rochester, no.
2 names is gonna be a no.
Mr. Kim, no.
That's
Mr. Merkley, no. Mr. Langford,
Yes.
aye. Mr. Kane, no. Mr. Warnock,
No.
no. Ms. Hirono, no. Mr. Booker, no.
Another one of my stupid senators.
Mrs. Murray, no. Mr. Heinrich, no. Ms. Cortez Masto, no. Mr. Rounds, aye.
Mike Rounds.
Mr. Moran, aye.
There we go. 40. 10 more. 10 more. Come on. Here we go.
Mr. Reed, no. Mr. Thune, aye.
You damn well better be. Hit that like and subscribe, please.
Mr. Cornyn, aye.
Senator John Cornyn from Texas.
Ms. Warren, no.
Loser.
Ms. Hassan, no. Mr. Ossoff, no.
This Democrat from Georgia came in. That's
Mr. Fetterman. Mr. Fetterman. No.
We tried. We tried.
Mrs. Smith. Miss Smith. No. Mr. Van Hollen. Mr. Van Hollen. No. Mr. Markey. Mr. Markey. No.
Oh, Markey. Massachusetts. Edward Markey. Come on. 8 more.
Mr. Coons. Mr. Coons.
No.
No.
Loser. Chris Coons. We need 8 more. 8 more. 8 votes away from changing the world. 8 votes away from changing the world. Hey, it's Andy. Andrew Branca.
Ms. Baldwin. Ms. Baldwin.
Good to
No.
see you, brother. Tammy Baldwin. Mitch McConnell was really the key moment. They got Mitch McConnell. There's no way they're not getting 50. He's the one who's been voting down.
Mr. Hickenlooper. Mr. Hickenlooper. No.
Oh no, we're losing. They're so crying, the Democrats. They're so crying. We have left. Did I miss Cruz? I don't remember hearing Schumer yet either. I don't remember hearing Young. I think Grassley voted already.
Mrs. Shaheen. Mrs. Shaheen. No.
All right. Come on. Get in there. I don't know if we got Britt yet either. I don't remember hearing her. Banks. Trying to figure out who's left from our side here.
Mr. Bozeman. Mr. Bozeman. Aye.
Bozeman is from where? Where's he from? Arkansas. Here we go. Here we go.
Ms. Klobuchar. Ms. Klobuchar. No. Mr. Hoven. Mr. Hoven. Aye.
All right, 6 more. I don't remember hearing Kennedy's name yet either.
Mr. Schiff. Mr. Schiff. No.
Mr. Schiff is a no. And you guys know which names are left? Yes, McConnell was a yes. No worries. You know, since he lies all the time, they should really take his no as a yes, but oh, I don't remember hearing Paul either yet. Ernst. Did we get Ernst? I'm getting confused between the roll
Mr.
call.
Bennett. Mr. Bennett. No. Mrs. Capito. Mrs. Capito.
Yes.
Aye. Mr. Wicker. Mr. Wicker. Aye.
All right. Roger Wicker, a Republican. 4 left.
Mrs. Fisher. Mrs. Fisher. Aye.
3 more. There you go, Deb. There you go, Deb. Deb Fisher from Nebraska. Who will be the 50th vote? Maybe they're waiting outside so that they can each be the 50th. Graham voted aye. To be me says how to project. Pinochet says we're just bringing the communists and Democrats to man and they're all guilty and they should get what they deserve.
Mr. Cruz. Mr. Cruz.
There you go.
Aye.
There you go. I said I didn't remember hearing him. He wants to be number 50, Teddy. Yeah, I think Lee voted already. I'm not sure if Ernst voted yet. Oh, I don't remember hearing Hawley. I don't know. There are a couple of names I missed early on. Come on. Let's go. No, it's not going to be 53 or 52. Both Collins and
Mr. Mullen. Mr. Mullen.
There you go.
Aye.
Mark Wayne Mullen. He's been one of the biggest advocates. Is that Lee? I think that's Mark Wayne Mullen and Senator.
Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee.
There you go.
Aye.
Mike Lee. Based Mike Lee. Woo! Nice. Based Mike Lee. He wanted to be number 50 so bad. He's like, I'm waiting outside. I'm not coming in there. I want to be number 50. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Mr. Gallego. Mr. Gallego, no.
Loser. I don't want him. I don't want Cash. Imagine being a Democrat coming in here when there's 50 votes against you already. What a loser. No, I don't want it. The FBI will now be great again. Oh my God, yes. Yes. The final Infinity Stone. Snap. Snap. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The final Infinity Stone was based Mike Lee. I love it. If I talk to him again, I talked to him once, and I was telling, when I told him that Wicker v. Filburn is what destroyed this country, he told me that comment. We were in an X space together. He's like, "You just made my day, my week, my month, my year. I've been screaming about that forever." He's awesome. Deep staters are now shaking in their boots. Yes, as they should be. As they should be. Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I can't believe we got Kash Patel. Sorry. Kashyap Patel of Nevada is our new director. Oh God. Wow.
Mr. Curtis. Mr. Curtis, aye.
There you go. 51. That's our 51 right there. Sorry. Give me 1 second.
Mr. Whitehouse. Mr. Whitehouse, no.
Stick around for the swearing in.
The yeas are 51. The nays are 49. The confirmation is confirmed. Under the previous order, the motion to reconsider is considered made and laid upon the table, and the president will be immediately notified of the Senate's actions.
Woohoo! Wow. All right. So now I'm just want to figure out.
I recognize the senator from South Carolina.
Thank you very much to my colleagues. We'll soon be starting what is commonly called a votorama. If you've never been in one, it's okay. But no, it's a chance to have a spirited discussion and debate about policy and about the budget resolution. So what's happened here is that the Budget Committee reported out Senate Concurrent Resolution 7 that will allow through the reconciliation process the spending of money and the reduction of spending based on different committees.
Right.
This resolution.
He's boring me. So now we have to decide. We have to figure out at 3 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, Trump is supposed to be speaking. I don't know, something about Black History Month. Whatever. I'm trying to figure out what time he's going to be confirmed. But oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. We should watch Who Retires Today. We should watch. Now my blood pressure is returning to normal. Go Cash. A lot of people mad, no pardon right now. I gotta tell you, Andrew, I don't think those blanket pardons, I don't think they're legit. And Cash may be like, you know what? Maybe we should test out whether or not they're legit. Because I don't think you can just give a blanket pardon. I think you have to name the crimes that the person's committed. I think there has to be some sort of level of specificity. I don't think you can just say, I pardon all crimes 10 years. And I know that it's been done before, but the point I made it several times in my show here is, yeah, people have purported to do it in the past, going all the way back to Nixon being pardoned by Ford, giving him a 10-year blanket pardon. But we don't know if it was actually legally pardoning him because he never got charged. I think they should charge and see whether or not the Supreme Court agrees that even if the president has no idea what crimes he's purporting to pardon, that it's a valid pardon. I don't understand why it's logically unsound to say that the person has no idea if the guy murdered 1,000 people. That it's just, but that's okay because he gave a blanket pardon. You pardon an offense. You don't pardon an individual. You don't declare someone angelic for some period of time. But until it gets tested by the DOJ, investigated, and evidence collected by the FBI and tested by the DOJ, we never will know whether or not that's a legally effective means of pardoning. It seems like it's a broad. I think the president has the power to pardon whomever he wants for whatever crimes they want, but he cannot simply say, I'm pardoning people from anything they've done for some period of time, or even in connection with some sort of activity. I don't think that makes sense if you don't know what those activities are. How many shredding machines going full speed right now? They've been going full speed since November 5th. They've been going full speed. Some of the shredding machines, some of those documents there was too much to shred. There's too much to shred. Cash wears female breast inspector Kevin. That would be awesome. That'd be hilarious. In God we trust, all others pay cash. Oh my God. Hey Joe, with Tulsi Cash and Company, is this the official end of the Democrat? party, I think they're really in trouble. And Brian Oldenkamp bringing 20 members into the following. God bless you. God bless you indeed. God bless you. I'm not going to be reading off the names right now, but I appreciate you bringing members into the following. Not that the following is any kind of, it's not at all a cult type of cult. But thank you. Awesome. And welcome you new members. Please express your gratitude to Brian for bringing you on in to the following. Oh my God. I'm like speechless. I'm speechless with excitement. I am speechless with excitement. Let's see if we can find out when that confirmation, when that he's supposed to be sworn in. Let's see if we can figure that out. When will Kash be sworn in? I don't know. The purge begin in DC. The lights go out. People go running, screaming through the streets. No. The purge. The purge is coming. The purge is coming. Let's see if we can find anything else out there which is talking about come on. Come on. Come on. Come on, where are you? I'm looking to see if I can find anywhere here. Anything, come on. I'm so excited, Kash Patel. I had real concerns. Oh my God. That's what I'm trying to find out, Fred. I'm trying to find out the same thing. Carolyn Levitt
was frankly extremely chaotic. A lot of the people that Trump tapped to lead these cabinet agencies, he did not know personally, and that is really what stemmed into a lot of the problems here. He couldn't feel like he could trust them. But now
it
this
may
is
not
a whole
be for
different
several hours
ballgame,
because
and
Trump
these
is
people
supposed
were
to do
picked very early
that
on
Black
in the
History Month
transition,
thing.
and it helps with a Republican-led Senate and a Republican House. If you have all the levers of government, that also works in your favor. And that was one of the other questions from the Senate side. You know, what were they going to give? Were they going to give president who just won the Electoral College and the popular vote everything he wanted with regard to his cabinet? And so I just thought that was really interesting here. Yes, there are more confirmations.
Yeah, but this is the key one. And it's an interesting thing. I mentioned how I wasn't crazy about the Marco Rubio thing. I think putting Rubio in that prestigious position, because Secretary of State is the most prestigious appointment he makes. That is the most prestigious one. I think that was designed to appease the rhinos because he chose a senator who's a rhino to be Secretary of State. And I think that was designed to get the other rhinos in Congress perhaps even as a negotiating tool. Like, I'll give you Rubio as Secretary of State, but I want everyone else that you guys are going to confirm them. I think that's likely a conversation that was held. And Rubio's, look, I have no confidence in him. No confidence in him. But so far he's been okay. And I expect one day I'll regret the fact that he's Secretary of State. But I'm okay with Rubio being Secretary of State for getting, if you tell me I have to have Rubio as Secretary of State in order to get Kash Patel and RFK in there, I'll take that every time.
Saying congratulations to Kash Patel on being confirmed as director of the FBI. Kash will end the radical weaponization of the agency and ensure it is working to protect Americans, not target them. Speaker Mike Johnson once again saying that one. So that is the big news this afternoon. You saw it all right here as it played out in real time on Live Now from Fox, everyone. So what we'll do is we'll take a 2-minute break. We're also keeping an eye on some different events that are happening across the country,
Catch
like
me
CPAC
outside.
2025. We'll check in there. We're also awaiting President Trump remarks at the Black History Month celebration that is happening at the White House in just a little bit. And then we are looking for some instant reaction as well from President Trump on this. Senate confirmed now. FBI Director Kash Patel, we are waiting for him to be sworn in as well. So you are watching Live Now from Fox, where we always try to bring you the very latest, all right here. We'll take a 2-minute break. Be back with more.
Let's see what else we got going on here. Let's see what else we got going on. Trying to see if we have anything remotely. Y'all getting to see my search list here, like what fits my algorithm. Y'all getting to see my algorithm. And yes, I have this here, which I've watched before. This is my algorithm. There are many like it, but this one is mine. I don't know where I can find it. Let me see if I can find. Let me do a quick search on X. Let's do Kash swearing. Change the Carters to Kash? Maybe. No, that was chat music. That was chat music. I play that sometimes on my show. They basically put comments on videos or pictures to music, and it can be kind of funny. So, speaking of Black History event, my good friend will be there with POTUS, AK Camera, from Minnesota RNC committee. Man, cool. Camara. Oh my God. I'm so thrilled by this. I can't even tell you. I'm not seeing. No, I don't want shark videos. This is such a phenomenal day. Such a wonderful, amazing day. All right. I'm not seeing anything about when he's going to be sworn in. I'm torn about whether I want to stick around for Trump's Black History Month thing. A little torn about that. Lemon Zinger says, Joe, by far you are at least the second best lawyer ever. Thanks for your dedication to your craft. Now please start your stream earlier in the evening. I'll do my best, Lemon. I'll do my best, Lemon Zinger, to try and start earlier. There's really no reason I can't start earlier. And thank you for your generous. I'm going to give you the horn. Let's turn on the super chat. Yeah, I don't think it's necessary. I don't think I'm going to gain much from it. All right. Well, congratulations, Kash Patel. Congratulations to America. This is a phenomenal day. Mark down on your calendar, February 20th, 2025. What an amazing, amazing, amazing day. I do plan on streaming, God willing, tonight. I'm not sure if I'm going to have a guest. I may. The guest which has told me that he should be available, but he's been a little bit difficult to reach. Not going to kid you, but hopefully we'll see if I hear back from him. He said maybe Wednesday or Thursday that he's going to be good. And then I said, well, then I never got a confirmation after. So we'll see. We'll see. But that guest is the older millennial. If you're unfamiliar with him, he makes videos and stuff like that. And he's a pretty smart guy. He seems like a fun guy to hang out with for an evening. So, yeah. Anyway, if not, I'll just be doing my regular show. We'll see. You tag me on X regarding congestion pricing. I'll try to look for it. I'll try to look for it. I thank you all for joining me. I look forward to seeing you later today. Till then, till I see you, have a great day. You know the drill. Godspeed.